Welcome to the Possibility Paradigm podcast, where we have conversations that are at the intersection of possibility, consciousness, actual experience, and energetic intelligence. The Possibility Paradigm are actually more than conversations. They're experiences that can change your tomorrows. Let's jump into today's episode. What if success isn't actually a destination, but it's like a continuous unfolding of new possibilities, uniquely created by you? Welcome to this is the final episode of our introductory series for the Possibility Paradigm. I'm Grace Ambrook, and over the past 2 episodes, we've explored how recognizing yourself as an infinite being and disrupting limiting energy patterns is a pathway to transform your life and your business. And today we're going to complete these pillars by reimagining success itself, or beginning to do that. And as you listen to more and more of the podcasts, you'll see how expansive success can actually become for you or for all of us. And in that expansion, that fulfillment, which is an energy that generates even greater possibilities, can really be in momentum for all of us who are, conscious business owners, creating greater for ourselves, for our people, our peeps, and of course for the planet. So there's often a tension for conscious business owners between the tangible results, remaining open to emergent possibilities. We're instructed, and I'm not suggesting these things are not relevant, but it is about creating harmonization, because the balance, we're not in harmony. I don't actually talk about balance because it's based in polarity of one thing on one side and one thing on the other, right? But what I work with people with is the harmonization. And so, with business, it can become so limited in creating tangible results and setting clear goals and creating strategic plans and then measuring the outcomes. And these are all very, very valuable practices, and you need to know what is going on in your business and what's moving the energy and what isn't moving your energy. So again, this is about harmonization, not one or the other. But there is a trap. It's quite subtle in the conventional approach. And that is when we fixate on predetermined destinations, we actually unconsciously close ourselves off to possibilities that lie beyond our current imagination, right? And that's where we're going today. So by the end of today's episode, you'll understand, no, you'll even more than understand. There'll be a connection to this possibility around holding your business vision with clarity and detachment, and making choices around your business from the expansiveness rather than fears or predictions or the limitations or the disruptive energies and patterns that we've just been talking about in the other episodes. Because that is where you truly then begin to experience the freedom. And because it's not even really designing success on your terms. That too, if you feel into that, or if you look at the energy of it, right? So refer to the last episode around the difference between that. But if you look at the energy of even defining success on your own terms, it's still like a whoa, right? It's like a whoa energy. And again, that may not be good or bad or right or wrong, but really what I'm sharing with you today and what we're activating up today is this possibility that success is not like that. Success is like this, like it's a for those of you who are listening to the podcast and not watching on YouTube, it's an energy that's constantly moving and constantly creating more while currently experiencing the success codes. And so it's not about a definition, it's about the experience and the continuous choosing into what else is actually possible for you and your business. And so it really actually creates both the fulfillment and remarkable business results that just may not be achieved in the way that you thought. But I know what sits in possibilities, and freedom sits in possibilities. And maybe it's a freedom you didn't even recognize that was something you would like to experience. So we're going to spend a few minutes now redefining success a little bit. So as I said, it's normally defined by external metrics, targets, revenue targets, market position, social recognition, and they can be seductive because they're quantifiable and they're comparable, right? Yay. And so just to check in on where we're at, yep, quantifiable, comparable. And again, I'm going to reiterate, it's not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, all right? But genius success isn't only about external benchmarks, but it's even more than the authentic expression. It is definitely continuous discovery and continuous activation of what else is possible. What if you even had more, right? So I know that from, as I shared in, I think it was episode 1, where, if I looked and if others looked at my life externally some decades ago, you would have said it was a successful life. Fantastic job, good money, house, partner, all of those things, right? So you would have said success. She's a successful woman. Internally, there was going on. And so the fulfillment wasn't there. There were rumblings, particularly in my relationship, which I tried to ignore, and then it exploded in my face. There was an awareness of my timing coming to an end in the great relationship I had with the people I worked with. I could go no further there, right? Totally super valued, very well looked after, but there was nowhere else for me to go. And so, externally, you could stay there, right, and go, well, that is success. But it wasn't. And, alternatively, I think one of the things that did actually and continues to bring me a sense of fulfillment and magic and possibilities was when I took a couple of years off and sailed in a 52-foot ketch from Melbourne, Australia to Kent in the UK. And it was incredibly fulfilling. Not all sunny weather, let me tell you. But, some people might call that mad. I still to this day, it is part of me and part of my experience of life that's pretty much up the top of the list of fulfillment for me as a being. So, where does success lie? And there were certainly some, interesting choices that were made around that decision. But anyway, there are many things that bring fulfillment. And so in one of the upcoming episodes as well, we're going to be talking about more and more about it's not really the redefinition of success. I'm talking about the undefinition of success. And so, because success is actually reflective of your unique components of life. So success for a mother of 6 and a business owner looks very different from success from a single male. I mean, I know that's obvious, in one sense, but it's very easy to look at the figures of both of those businesses perhaps and make assumptions and projections around it. And that's really where we need to move ourselves out of that containment. So one of the things that it's a very powerful principle, it won't be new to you, the concept of detachment. And but as a concept, what I notice, it's far easier for people to acknowledge it as a concept than as a way of life. And but it is, in terms of possibilities, it's kind of like we have to really be detached because there are other possibilities. And it doesn't mean not caring about your results and what you're achieving. It means recognizing that your predetermined vision is not necessarily your success, and your predetermined vision may actually be limiting what's possible. It looks black, it looks black, it looks black, and over here, all of these white opportunities are finding their way to you, but you go, oh no, it's not that, but it's not that, but it's not that, but it's not that, but it's not that, because it's this definition of success has contained you. And the more detached you are from specific outcomes, while you know what the essence of those outcomes are, the more extraordinary your results actually do become. That's certainly been my experience and the experience of those that I work with. Who would have known I'd be doing a podcast, and who would have known I would have been doing the Possibility Paradigm podcast? Believe me, it was not in my field until fairly recently. So let's play with a bit of a practical example. So imagine you have a revenue goal for your business and you get very attached to that goal, right? So you focus narrowly on the known pathways to reach that goal. And so that looks like people taking templates, replacing using somebody else's method to get to where they got to, but is that where you want to get to? And all that confusion energy, right? So, and it's not that we don't learn from others. I'm not saying that at all. But success, the pathway to success, is a very unique expression of you. And there are things that you, in really realizing what they are, you can then selectively choose what you marry with, what you dance with. And then that intuitive trust, of course, is highly important, because people will want to convince you that their way is the way, and it might be their way and not your way. So you continue to hold the intentions while remaining open to unexpected ways that it might show up as. So perhaps there's a partnership that comes in, or an affiliation that comes in that wasn't on your radar. Perhaps it's a podcast that comes in, or a summit, or a million and one things, a new service. So many times I can remember at one stage there was a product that I hadn't actually offered for a couple of years, and then a person who I'd worked with before saw it on my webpage, because naughty me, I hadn't upgraded it, and she actually paid for the course, right? So money came in, all paid up for, and I went, oh my God, I haven't run this for a couple of years. So I went, okay. So I did some promotion around it, and it became a very successful and the beginning of a lovely relationship to all the people who jumped into that. When I then went, okay, this is telling me it has some life, it has some momentum. It wasn't on my to-do list, right? And that is going with the energy, because the energy is always showing you. So, and it's unexpected. And then because it doesn't fit the thing, you would dismiss it. And that's what the awareness is for. So we'll be talking around that as well, about wealth creation and the how you view finances, how you view money, how you view wealth, how connected you are to source and resources, and again, detachment from specificity and allowance of everything. Anyway, we'll get to that later on. So I want to talk now about some decisions around expansiveness. So perhaps the most practical application of living from possibility is making decisions from that which expands, not that which is contractive or acceptable or reasonable. And so are you applying expansiveness to your choices in your business? And there are, like, and the easiest, in inverted commas, way to do that is to look at the energy. Look at the energy around what relationships to nurture. Look at the energy around what opportunities to pursue, which directions to explore. The Possibility Paradigm podcast would not leave me alone. It had an energy. There are times when I dismissed the energy of it and got a little bit into the other aspects. And yet it keeps and continues to pull me back into the possibility of the possibility paradigm. So I look forward to exploring what that is going to be over the next years. So conventional wisdom, if you could call it that, convention maybe, teaches to make decisions through risk assessment, cost-benefit analysis, and while that is one component, that on its own is too small. It misses the energetic dimension of choices and decision making. So again, it's like, what does this create? What opportunity rolls out from this? What does the energy of the Possibility Paradigm podcast look like? When I'm working with clients and they're developing a new product menu, like the first and the foremost energy of that is, what is the energy dynamic on it? Because once you tune into that energy dynamic, all the copy, all the visuals, all the taglines, all the names, they all come out. They come from that energy, from that possibility. It's ripe to be experienced and expressed. It's just not made up by the mind about what might work in today's current economic environment. It's way bigger than that, right? And so there are two decision modes you might like to be aware of. And one is the contraction-based decisions that we've just been talking about, from projections, from scarcity, from, oh, well, that's the way the market is at the moment. And then it's looking for safety, reliability. How can I avoid failure? What's the convention here? Right? That's one way. And again, this is all about awareness, not rightness and wrongness, right? And the second way is about expansion-based decisions, which was what I was just talking about. It's like they come from the possibility. They emerge from possibility, from creation and self-expression. They ask these, it's like, what choice generates most aliveness? What pathway creates the greatest possibility? What direction calls me, even if it doesn't make logical sense or illogical sense or any sorts of sense, right? So, and it's not an either or, although I would say I would never make contraction-based decisions. I will make logical decisions or rational decisions, but mostly I always go with expansion-based decisions on every aspect of my life. Will this expand what we're doing? So and applying this to your business is like you got to learn to distinguish between these decision modes and choose. It does not mean not making practical and having practical considerations. So, it could be, oh, well, that will take 12 years before we actually have a return financially. And that, again, is only a choice, not a problem. Is that something you would choose? And you might quickly go to, oh no, I need a, much quicker return on investment than that. Like, that is a decision. Like, that's a choice. It's not a problem wanting to be solved. It's like, no, where I am at the moment, my targets, my intentions. You can, like the energy again, you can kind of feel it. It's like it pushes it out, right? Go, oh, okay. And then some of us, not me, but some of us try to pull things back in and make them work. Oh my God, so exhausting. So exhausting. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to make this system work. No. What possibilities are waiting to be activated and expressed through me? That's the question. If you're pulling stuff into you because you're told that's how it has to be, ask another question. Explore what the possibilities. Ask yourself as an infinite being. Create your business from the infinite being rather than simply your humanness. Well, actually, humanness is far more complicated than an infinite being. That's been my awareness. And again, it's not an either or because we are on the planet and the planet is in major transition. And if you're a conscious business owner, you are here for the possibilities and not for what has been. So again, some of the future episodes, we're going to be talking about what makes, how do we make decisions from expansion and not status quo? And even when it might seem illogical, and what happens when we do that, and how do we receive the greater impact? Are we willing to receive the greater impact? Are we willing to receive the greater recognition? And so we'll be talking about specific decisions too, where choosing possibility over limitation has led to an extraordinary and unexpected breakthroughs. So again, now I want to cover this aspect of success being a continuous discovery. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip of water. So when you allow yourself to know that success is a continuous discovery, you take that pressure of arrival out of the equation. Just breathe out, everybody. Oh my God, if I'm lucky enough, if I'm conscious enough to have a life where I'm continuously embracing possibilities and discovery and expression and experiences, and I no longer have to arrive somewhere, how much more freedom, joy, brilliance, genius do you have access to? So when success is defined as a arrival at a destination, there's kind of a pattern that shows up, right? A consistent pattern. There's anticipation and expectation. Then there's the experience of satisfaction upon achievement. And then there's a flatness and an emptiness because you're done, right? You've ticked the box. Now what? And then you set a new goal, right? Which creates a perpetual cycle of I'll be happy when blah, 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 fill in the dots. I call that conditional living. Oh, terrible. Always waiting. Always tomorrow. When this, then that. But when success is allowed to be a continuous expression and experience, that every moment actually contains its own fulfillment. It's not about reaching endpoints. It is about the joy of expressing and expanding awareness of what is possible. That is what I'm here for. And so, I'm encouraging you again to feel the juiciness in that. And it's like the energy that I'm sensing is people are able to actually let go of this expectation and this constant like striving to reach somewhere that when you reach it is flat anyway, and then you do it all again. So that's a limiting cycle right there. I'm going to repeat it again, when you allow success to be a continuous possibility, expression, expansion, every moment has its highs and it'll have its lows because life includes everything, right? But it's not just about reaching endpoint. How much freedom do you have when you're not looking for endpoints and you're absolutely in love with what's possible? So I hope that you have enjoyed this introductory series. I cannot wait to get further and further in with everybody and guests and listeners and all of those things. And because we've established here that my intention for this 3-part series, introductory series, was to establish some of the pillars, right? And just to review that, we began by recognizing that you're an infinite being beyond your current perceptions and identifications and roles. We then went on in the second one to explore how to disrupt those limiting patterns that keep you confined to old ways of being. And then today we kind of packaged it up together saying, okay, all right, so an infinite being, we know how to shift the energy now. And how do we reimagine success as a continuous unfolding that gives us the freedom to continue to be a living, walking, breathing, talking, highly creative, infinite possibility rather than waiting to arrive at some predetermined destination. So as you integrate these questions, as you bring them into these principles, as you bring them into your life, as you bring them into your possibility field, then, it can be fun for you to play around with what becomes possible in your business when you operate from your infinite nature, when you disrupt the limitations, when you embrace success as a continuous discovery, when your intentions become clearer, more active, more possible, because they're not goals, they're not concrete, they're spaces to move your energy towards. And, when you play in that sort of field, it's not conceptual. It's the actual future that you're creating is speaking to you by you shifting your perception. And that's where we have the most fun. So in the episodes ahead, we're going to dive deeper into these sorts of possibilities through conversations. Mostly they'll be with conversations. It won't all be me chatting away, unless, of course, that is what's required as a result of some of the conversations that we've had. But I really look forward to illuminating the different facets of living and working from possibility rather than limitation with you. So thank you for joining me in this introductory series of the Possibility Paradigm podcast. And again, I encourage you, if it sparks something in you, I'd love to hear about your experience. You can find me on the socials as Grace Ambrook on Insta and on Facebook. And until our next episode, I'm Grace Ambrook, reminding you that success isn't a destination to be reached. It's something that unravels and unfurls and shows itself to you in the most marvelous ways that you may never have even imagined. Moment by moment, as you live from the infinite possibility that you already are. See you soon.